just allows people to jump on. Good evening and welcome to Raconteurs News. It is Tuesday, the 2nd of February. I've just had deja vu. I'm sure I said it was 2nd of February last time I did a show, but that can't have been. Anyway, in 2021, and I hope you've had a great weekend. I hope you've got through it. With all this crazy pandemic stuff going on and everything. I went to the hospital yesterday. Myself, I had to have a blood test that had to be done really quickly. So I went to the hospital to have a blood test, and no face. I didn't get anybody give me any hassle, but I got no face mask on. And when I went in through the first building, the lady said to me, "Do you normally wear a mask?" And I said, "No, not normally. I don't normally wear a mask. I mean, no. Why would you wear a mask?" But anyway, we got through that. Anyway, so like I said, good evening to all the people in the chat room. Spanish Chicken, Donna Caddy, Spanish Chicken, who said earlier on that this is going to blow our minds. Hopefully it will. Chainsaw Cat, Joe Kid, yeah, good Caddy, and of course Matthew as well, yeah, of course. Matthew Caddy, Resi Tuber. Anyway, I'm going to get into the show because I think we've got a lot of stuff to be talking about. So, good evening to my guest this evening. We're going to be talking Flat Earth, and we're going to be talking with David Weiss. David Weiss, have I got that right, Weiss? Is that right? Is that the right way?
Weiss like ice.
Weiss like ice, that's good. Excellent. Good evening. Welcome to Raconteurs News. How are you doing?
Thanks, Jason. I'm doing great. Great day here. We had a lot of snow, so here I am talking to you.
Well, we had a bit of snow. I'm telling you, I mean, we had like 2 inches or something like that, in which everything grinds to a halt around here. I mean, nobody can deal with snow at all. We had a couple of inches, and that's done it. But I think it's gone with the rain. So gone with not with the wind, but gone with the rain. So, I mean, where do we start? I think we should start with you, your past, and tell us about you. You used to be a businessman before you got into all this stuff. Just give us a quick rundown of what your past is, what you were doing at that time, and what made you make the huge switch to what you're doing now.
That's a big question. So I was just a normal guy, grew up, went to college, went to work for corporate America. Then I transitioned into opening up my own company. Things were going super well. I was in the commercial solar power development business, and things were amazing. On the side, I was doing a conspiracy podcast, looking into the not a conspiracy theory podcast, a conspiracy podcast. About all the deceptions in the world. And then Flat Earth was brought up. And of course, like any of us, first you laugh at it and you refuse to look. And then when you finally look, you're like, wow. So I had that going on for a bunch of years. And then just something came to me and said, I got to walk away from my own company. I had the American dream. I started my own business, making lots of money. And something told me, to walk away and do this because I feel that this message is more important than anything else or any amount of money. So that's what I'm doing.
Also, and so was there a particular point, an epiphany, any particular point where you just thought, it just boosted, just came into your mind and sort of blew your mind and made you realize that this is what you needed to dedicate your life to?
Yeah, it was the beginning of this COVID nonsense that is going on. And I saw what was happening to the world. And I'm like, how can people be this deceived? And so the answer came to me right away is because they're spinning out of control, lost in space, and they have no idea who they are, what power they have. And that's when it just came to me that I needed to step away from it all and do this.
Okay. And what was your first clue, as we'd say?
My first clue as far as
the first point, yeah.
Wait,
Flat
as far
Earth.
as finding out the Earth was flat?
Yeah.
Well, I went in to debunk it, and I think the first thing is I looked into Antarctica because I was like, okay, the 24-hour sun in Antarctica. Well, that didn't work out. Then I looked about going to Antarctica, and I saw that there was like 15 different companies that you can go. You can go, take a little tourist trip to the edge. And then I found out all of those companies were owned by the same company. So it's really only one company, which is very suspicious. Then I learned about the Antarctic Treaty, that no one's allowed to independently explore Antarctica. That was suspicious. And then I said, okay, what about curvature? Boats over the horizon. Quickly figured out why boats disappear from the bottom up. If we lived on a ball, they would disappear from the bottom up, but they also disappeared due to angular resolution. So looking at the, curve calculator, we can see too far. Large bodies of water at rest lay flat. The Earth is either 1,000 times bigger than they tell us, or it's flat.
That's very interesting. I mean, the flat Earth model does have it does work as wherever you go and you head south, you're going to get to the Arctic Rim. I mean, do we know? Is there any ideas of how far that goes, and does that go into another dimension? Well, wouldn't be another dimension. It'd probably be the same dimension as we're in, but it'd be another civilization. Is that something that you've thought about?
Yeah, I mean, that's a possibility. I mean, there could be so many different things that are beyond the edge of Antarctica. But again, that's off limits. Are there rings? Are there other puddles? Is this it? I don't know. So the question is, what is this? First, I'm more concerned is what is this place where we're at right now? But as far as, what's beyond Antarctica, either Antarctica is bigger than all of the oceans and all of the continents combined, much bigger, or there's other worlds out beyond a few thousand-mile Antarctica ring around us. Don't know. We have a big delay between us, so sorry everybody. There's like a 5-second delay.
Is that all right? Okay, I don't think we can do anything about that at the moment.
Right.
I was going to ask you, what's the biggest argument that you get against you? Is it? I mean, what is it? I've seen the Earth from a picture from space and what have you. Because I've got a real problem with space. I know we'll get into space a little bit later on. But I've got a real problem with it. But what's the argument that people will give you that it's a ball?
Well, I call them Flat Earth 101 arguments. Photos from space, boats over the horizon, seasons, which is ridiculous, sunsets, and there's really not much else. And all of them are easily explained away.
Yeah. So does this? Are are you a religious guy? I hope I'm not treading on your toes or anything like that.
No, that's all right.
Something else.
Well, I would
I know
definitely say
there's
I'm not.
people. Sorry, I was just going to say that I know there's a lot of Earth people that do go down the road of religion.
Well, there's a lot of religious people everywhere. You get a group of a couple hundred people together, and any group, and there will be a lot of Christians. There'll be a lot of all different people. So yeah, there are a lot of Christians in Flat Earth, but I don't use religious texts to prove the Flat Earth, although it supports the Flat Earth. So before discovering that the Earth was not a spinning ball, I would define myself as an atheist, and I didn't believe in any God, and I actually totally discounted what people would say if I found out they were religious. So after I understood that this place is designed for us, we are at the center of creation, that it's not a random accident, then I have no choice but to understand that there is a creator. So you can put any name on that creator that you want, whatever you want to do. I'm kind of open to it, that we're all like, our souls. The way I look at it is our souls are part of God, and we're having a soul's journey here on Earth. So we're tied in with that. So am I religious? I don't think so.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, you believe in a creator. I mean, there's a lot of that I do. I believe there's a creator.
Yeah, it's not about believing, because the Earth is undeniably created. It's not a random accident. It's not from a Big Bang. It's undeniably created. Therefore, there's a creator. And then I draw the line right there. It's everyone's personal journey to figure out who or where or what the creator is.
Yeah, of course not. I mean that's every individual person's that's personal to everybody. So so what's your let's just say you've got somebody who stands in front of you, never heard of Flat Earth really. Have you obviously heard of the Flat Earth Society because it's been bandied about? I think Obama made a mention of it. And we all know that the Flat Earth Society is just a complete and utter waste of time. It's just a diversionary tactic. So, what would your best evidence be for somebody who was just just first learning about Flat Earth?
We can see too far. That's the one that anyone can do themselves. They can go to the beach. They can go, somewhere, find the distance to something, put it in the curve calculator, and figure out how much of it should be hidden. And there it is. You can see things with your naked eye that you shouldn't be able to see. And now with super zoom cameras and infrared cameras, we can see things that should be miles below the curve, but we can see them. So right there, the question I ask is, how many stretches of flat water does it take to make a sphere? How many straight lines in a row does it take to make a sphere? And the answer is it's flat. I mean, you can't make a sphere from that. Hey, just jumping back a second to religion. Someone in the chat keeps asking, what religious books are what religious books are flat earth books? The Bible, from the first page, God separated the waters from the waters and put in the firmament, which is the dome. And there's over 200 other verses that talk about a flat, immovable earth. And Isaiah is the only passage, one of the passages of Isaiah says the circle of the earth. Well, my coffee table is a circle. All right. It's not a sphere. It's a circle. So, I believe that, the earth pond is generally a circle. It's pretty much a circle. There's the circle of the earth.
And that's interesting. I like how you call it the pond that we're living in. It's like we're on a great big plain and there's many ponds, and there's been some people that have tried to find the edge, haven't they? I mean, fairly recently. When I say fairly recently, I'm talking about like 100 years ago or 80 years ago. And there were people that were eminent flat earthers that went to try and find the edge, didn't they?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure who you're referring to.
All right. Well, there's a couple. I read about them. There were a couple there were one female who I think about 100 years ago or 80 years ago, something like that, but went to on an expedition to the Antarctic to try to find what was over the rim, as it were. So, and she wrote when they eventually found some of her stuff. What she'd written in her books was, just incredible. Some of the stuff that she'd written in her books, but she'd obviously perished. But anyway, you can look at that. People can look that up all they want, and people that try to find I think there's two anyway. One guy and one woman a long time ago. Give us some examples of the reason why it's flat and it's not a ball. Clearly to you.
So if you look, so one of the things is on a flat Earth, we can circumnavigate the entire Earth east or west, right? So the North Pole at the center of the lake is a magnetic North Pole. So your compass will always point to the center. So if this is the center of my lake, as I go west, I have to keep turning to keep my compass pointing at the lake. So west is a circle, east is a circle. That doesn't prove the Earth is flat. Okay. I can also go from America, I can go north in a straight line, and as soon as I pass the North Pole, I'm going south, and now I'm over in Japan. So that doesn't prove the Earth is flat either, because you can do that on a ball or a flat Earth. But what you can't do on a flat Earth is go from Santiago, Chile, to Antarctica. I mean, to Australia, because that is because they're at the opposite end of the world. So if you look at this picture that's coming up, you should be able to go from Santiago right over to Australia in a straight line, or at least, around the edge of Antarctica. That's the shortest route. But in reality, the planes go all the way up to North America, all the way over to England, over to Dubai, and then all the way back down to Antarctica, when in fact that's, they should just cut across the bottom. So check this out. If we go from Santiago all the way up, and if I want to go to Eastern Australia, it's worse. I go all the way over to here and then all the way back down to Australia. And if we look at that on a flat Earth, look at it. It's literally a straight line. This is backwards for me. It's hard for me to do it. But if I keep continuing across America, Europe, and to East Australia. So it's literally a straight line. And that's what it looks like on a flat Earth map. The other thing is circumnavigation. Nobody can circumnavigate the world heading south and go all the way around. But the world record for circumnavigation is this. They came, all the way down to Santiago. Then they went to, out to here on Antarctica, and they turned around and went all the way back up and around the North Pole. Right? That's circumnavigation. That makes no sense. And I'll show you what that looks like on a flat Earth. So this is what that looks like on a flat Earth, right? Does that look like north-south circumnavigation to you?
No.
Yeah. And they got the world record for that. So that's another super red flag. Like, why are they doing that? If you want to circumnavigate north-south, you start at the North Pole, you go to Santiago, you pop up over here in Australia, and you go back to the North Pole. That would be circumnavigating a globe, but it can't be done, and it's never been done. So that's red flag number one in my book.
Okay, so this is South America down here. Sorry, I know you can't see where I'm pointing, but down at the bottom where you've got the little loop thing,
Right
that's South America. Yeah. So that'd be Argentina. Up into Central America, United States, across to Europe. Britain's there. I can see Britain and Australia. So I mean, the proportions are all different as well, aren't they? on a flat Earth.
Well, this map, there's questions about, like, Australia kind of looks too big. I don't know if it's too big, but it's all based on these latitude lines. Excuse me. The longitude lines, and that's all controlled by NASA and GPS. So it's possible that they curve these lines for us to have swaths of ocean that are uncharted. There's like uncharted ocean areas out there. So again, this map, I don't think it's exactly right, but it's better than the globe. If you look at the globe, nothing makes sense on the globe. Greenland and Africa are completely the wrong sizes, and the distance between the United States and Africa are insane. I mean, this is more true. Like going from, the East Coast to Africa, you got to go all the way down here. But on a globe, the East Coast is right next to here. I did a windsurfing trip, right? I windsurfed from Newfoundland, Canada to Weymouth, England. Okay. It was 2,000 miles. Okay. I think it was 2,000 miles. And then a couple years later, they were going to do another transatlantic race from South America to Africa. But on a globe, it shows it to be like, maybe 3,000 miles. I forget the exact distance. But in reality, it's like 3 times that distance. So the guys that did it, they actually departed, and within, 8 hours, the Coast Guard surrounded them, stopped them, and helicopters, ships, and they took them all back to shore. They're like, nope, you can't do it, because they would have gotten lost at sea.
What's the official explanation for why they don't fly over the Southern Ocean? Because that's the ocean they don't fly over, isn't it?
The official explanation is that there's no place for an emergency landing, and that it's too dangerous to fly over Antarctica. And so they go all the way up on that crazy route that I showed you, like all the way up here, just so they don't fly over too much ocean, which is nonsense. This amount of ocean right here is not much more than they would be going between, if they went underneath the bottom.
No.
The real explanation is they're lying, and you can't go that way, period. I mean, here's the globe, okay? So check this out. This is the globe. And if we measure from Baja to the other side of Mexico, it's 934 miles, because that's something we could actually measure. We don't have to take, listen to GPS. We can drive that, and we could take a boat and figure out how fast the boat's going, and we could drive the rest, because you can't measure with an airplane, because you could have wind currents, you have all things. So there's that segment. If the Earth is as wide as they tell us, there's the diameter of the Earth. It would take 8.5 of these segments should fit between this line and this line. 8.5, right? 8.5 goes right off the page, right?
Yeah.
So either the Earth is tiny, half the continents don't exist, or NASA's lying. And we didn't go to the moon.
Well, of course we didn't go to the moon. I mean, the moon, the moon, that's the most ridiculous thing that I've ever seen. Apart from the SpaceX things, I mean, they were cartoonish. The SpaceX rockets and stuff like
that. There actually are. They're cartoons and balloons.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, cartoons. Yeah. So what's your take on space? I does my head in.
Look, I'm in the space station.
Okay? Oh, I've got one of them. I wish I got my green
I'm in the space station. This is my take on space. Space is fake. FAF, if you know what that means.
It's what, sorry? Oh, FAF, yes. Fakers.
FAF.
Fakers fact, as they might say.
Fake is fiction. There you go. Fake is fiction. That's what it means.
For me, the problem with space travel is that we're going into we're flying from Earth orbit into a vacuum, essentially.
Right.
If anything goes wrong with that space station, it's all airs out, it's a vacuum. So how then does a rocket work in a vacuum? Because it works on Earth because there's air, there's a density of air that will push against in order for it to move forward. Right. But in space, there isn't anything.
Right.
So how would that work?
So check this out. If you look at think about where'd you go? You're gone. Are you there? I only see myself. There you are. Okay. You changed the view. There we go.
I put you up because you were putting these, you know.
Yeah, no. I just put. I only have access to a few pictures because StreamYard only limits you to have 20 pictures, and it's a pain in the neck. But I'm calling out StreamYard. Add more pictures. Give us more room, and let us add videos. So think about this. Have you ever been in a real hurricane or seen a tornado? Have you ever been in one?
No, I've not. No.
Okay. So 150 mile an hour wind hurricane is devastating, right? 200 miles an hour will knock houses over, just destroy a well-built house. Okay. A tornado, which, a class, whatever, a high-speed tornado is like 300 miles an hour, and that'll rip cement foundations out of the ground. It'll turn telephone poles and trees into splinters. Okay. That's 300 miles an hour of room temperature air spinning. Okay. Now think of the space shuttle, for example. It's 4 million pounds. Okay. So to lift up 4 million pounds, you have to put out some serious thrust, right? And that thrust from those big engines, it's not room temperature. Would you say it's superheated? Yes is the answer. So, but we won't even factor in the fact that it's thousands of degrees. We'll just factor in the wind speed. To lift up 4 million pounds, do you think you need 300 miles an hour of thrust? No.
You probably need about
tens of thousands of miles an hour of thrust. Okay? Tens of thousands of miles an hour of room temperature air hitting things would pulverize them. It would rip up concrete. If you watch it, there's a little metal fence that surrounds, the whole space shuttle. The fence doesn't even wobble. All right. That fence would be atomized, if that's even possible. Okay. It would be destroyed because those rocket engines have to have supposedly it's coming out faster than 17,000 miles an hour, and it's thousands of degrees. That would destroy everything around, but it doesn't. The launch pad is fine. The little rickety fence is there. It's not even bent over, right? That alone shows you that large rockets are nonsense.
Oh, and when they set off anyway, they always fly. They don't fly straight up. They sort of fly and then arc over, don't they? So that they go out of sight,
right over. And into restricted water space. We have the Bermuda Triangle here, so boats don't really go through there. So it just goes and disappears. You're watching a cartoon within seconds of a launch when you watch it on TV, right? If you think about it, you never see a launch from one camera that's close by. Now, you're going to have someone 10 miles away film the whole thing because you can't see what you're looking at. It could be a miniature. It could be a balloon. You don't know. But go to watch any major launch, and within 10 seconds, there's at least 5 cuts, right? This shot, this angle, that angle. It's a movie. They're literally showing a movie. Some of them are actually something moving. Some of them are balloons. Some of them are miniatures. Some of them are cartoons. It's literally an edited movie, and people just don't see it because they're lost in space, spinning out of control.
Yeah, it's all about. People since '50s have been conditioned about space travel and how it's able to happen and how we'd get to the moon and everything. And we're at Kennedy in '62 that said, that it was his dream of getting somebody to the moon and back safely. But in your mind, that's just impossible.
I don't believe the moon is a physical object. It's clearly within the Earth system, within the Earth atmosphere. Just go out when the moon's out during the day and look at it. There's blue sky beyond it, clearly blue sky beyond it, right? I believe the moon and the sun that we see, the ones that we see, are reflections for lack of a better word, into our system. So I just want to respond to one thing in chat about the rockets, about the rocket, thrust. They say that there's vents right below it that channel the wind out. I disagree with that, but that doesn't matter. As soon as that rocket goes up 10 feet, that cone of thrust goes out and it goes everywhere. And when you watch a rocket go off, there's all this smoke and dust and dirt, whatever it is, that surrounds everything, so you really can't see anything. And then as the rocket goes up, that amount of thrust should obliterate every puffy smoke cloud there is. It should obliterate it and push it sideways out for a mile or more, right? But it doesn't. There's this big fluffy cloud surrounding the launch pad, and as the rocket goes up, the cloud barely is affected, if it's affected at all. That is impossible. Okay. When I launch a little rocket this big, right? Launch a little rocket, the smoke blows everything out to the sides, right? A 4 million pound rocket that's going up slowly, kind of like a helium balloon with a little rocket assist, right? Should obliterate that smoke cloud. That there alone shows you it's complete and total nonsense. And the spectators,
I'd agree with you.
Spectators, sorry for it, we have the delay, so I don't mean to step on you. But the spectators,
that's okay.
They always show some people that are close by, that are looking up. But I've caught them where people are filming and they're filming nothing. They're filming nothing. They're looking in the wrong direction. So they fake these spectators, right? Nobody watches these things up close. Okay, and if you do, it's not that close. It's the people that have seen them, they're all far away, and it's all edited nonsense. When you go back, look at the Challenger and the cameraman going, go to the families, it was all scripted. It's unreal.
Yeah, it is. I've got to say I've seen a lot of that, particularly with the Challenger one. When like you said, go to the families just after they've seen the daughter, and because I don't believe they're in on it. But they've just seen the daughter being blown up. I mean, how distasteful can somebody be?
Yeah, here's something. Just if we're talking about the Challenger, I'll just say this: is it looks like all but one of them has been identified, still alive, all working for universities. One has a corporation, and the amount of connections are ridiculous. Same name, looks the same teeth, same dimples, same everything. The one guy that has a corporation, I forget what it does, but their logo on their website is an animated cow that's flying through the air with smoke coming out of his rear end, doing the same loop-de-loop that the Challenger did. It looks just like it, just by coincidence. But people say, playing the, hey, this person looks like that person game, it's a risky game, but same names, same everything. And what they say is it's their identical twins. So 5 of the 6 or 6 of the 7, whatever the number is, have identical twins. Okay. That's strange. I don't believe it, but let's say that's true, that none of the identical twins spoke at any of their siblings' funerals. Okay. None of them showed up. None of them spoke. So that's suspicious. It's beyond suspicious.
Yeah. I had seen, it is suspicious that there'd be that many identical twins in, what were there, 7 of them. So if there's 5 that are from identical twins, then that's got to be a bit dodgy, hasn't it? I mean, it's 5 identical twins picked out of 7 people, from this entire space program, where hundreds of thousands of people, either in NASA or the teacher as they took up as well. But I've seen that, like you said, where it shows you a picture of the person and what they're doing. They're a professor at some university or whatever. They're not even using a different name half the time.
Right. It's crazy. And the global, the NASA apologists will say NASA picks people that are twins. That way they can examine their twin and see how their bone density compares to, their twin. It's just made up nonsense. Cool idea. But, your twin is closer than a brother or sister that's not a twin. And none of them went to the funerals of their twins. None of them spoke or photographed at their funerals. All right. Game over. They're lying. NASA never went to the moon.
No, never. No, they're actors, of course.
Yeah.
As the song goes. Kevin Streets just put a question in. Can David explain a volcanic eruption? I mean, I don't know what.
Yeah.
Whether that's.
Yeah, volcanic eruptions are very interesting, and I'm not the guy, but lava is not coming from the center of the earth up and coming out cone-shaped volcanoes. Do you know that cone-shaped volcanoes, mountains spewing lava don't exist? Right? That one blew me away. Try to find some real video of a cone-shaped volcano. Yeah, there are lava pits. And there's lava tubes that are everywhere. Just go Google Hawaii lava tubes. And there's a lot of people that have researched that. So the lava is underneath the earth. It's heated by electricity because the sun is bringing electricity to the earth. It's not sending photons to the earth, right? I was in the solar power business, and even the scientists in this world don't know how solar power works. They have a theory, because they're saying, well, the photon is hitting the boron molecule, and the boron molecule knocks out of a hole and goes into the next hole, and it creates a little current, and they feed all these currents together. It's just a theory. They don't know how it works. I know how it works. The sun is like a Tesla coil. It's sending electricity here, and the collector is just collecting it and channeling it down into, down into wires. It's pretty simple, but they can't figure it out because they think the sun is a burning ball of hydrogen, 93 million miles away, when in fact it's actually like a Tesla coil. Think about, you got two house plants, and you put one in front of a fire and one in front of a fluorescent light. One of them is going to shrivel up and die, and the other one's going to grow, right? And the reason it's the sun is not hot, right? Well, what do you mean the sun's not hot? The sun is electric, so it's sending the electricity down here. Well, if you put electricity on something, it'll get hot, right? Till you boil water, in a little teapot thing. So up high, there's not that much air. That's why it's cold on the top of mountains. Down low, the air is thicker. The electricity excites those molecules. The hottest places on Earth are in the lowest places on Earth. Like Death Valley here is below sea level, and it has the hottest temperatures on Earth, right? It's because the electricity from the sun, and the electricity from the sun fluoresces the gases in the sky, and maybe even the firmament. And most of the gas up there is nitrogen, and nitrogen fluoresces. Guess what color? Blue.
Right.
Yeah.
And the sun, for me, if the sun was as far away as we are told it is, and I think it's 93 million miles in it, that we're told it is, and we were 93 million miles away from it, then I would have thought that that would pretty much be at a stable temperature for the whole planet, really.
Well, that would make sense, but they give us we're tilted away, and that little tilt spreads the light out, and that causes our winter. Did you know that in the heliocentric model, during our northern winter, we're 3 million miles closer to the sun than in our summer, right? So we're supposed to believe just because we're tilted away and that sunlight, we're not tilted towards the sun, we're tilted away, that sunlight spreads out. That's nonsense. And it makes no sense because in the summer, when the sun is on the horizon, you can feel the heat, right? In June and July. And in the winter, even during the height of the sun of the day, when it's at a much more direct angle, you can barely feel the heat at all, at least here in the Northeast. So that's crazy. So I want you guys, I've done this, but I want you guys to think about this. So angular size has to do with everything. So if I bring my phone right here, it's filling up 180 degrees of your vision. And as I move it away, it's shrinking really fast, right? It's shrinking. And if I don't have to go too far, and it'll get so small, you can't see it, right? That's called perspective. You with me?
Yep.
All right. So now let's look at the sun. If the sun's this big giant ball and the earth is a little pebble, right? So if the sun was right next to the earth, it would fill the entire sky. Then you move it 93 million miles away, it shrinks like my phone shrank, and it becomes the size of a small coin held at arm's length. You with me?
Yep.
So it reduced from the entire sky to the size of a coin. So it's going to keep reducing. If you doubled the distance or 8 times farther, could you see it? And the answer is provably no, because its angular size would get so small, your eye couldn't resolve it, period. Right? And every time you double the distance of something, it gets 1/4 of the brightness. So you would have all sorts of issues. So 8 times farther is a light hour, just 1 light hour, right? And they tell us the closest star is 40,000 times farther than that illustration I just made for you, right? We would not be able to see our sun at a light hour. And the closest star in our entire galaxy is 40,000 times farther than 8 times farther than our sun. You know, if our sun was 8 times farther than it is, the next star is 40,000 times farther. Any thinking mind would know that's ridiculous, right? And all of the other stars are much farther than that, right? But we can look up on a clear night and see, maybe not you in England, but we can see many stars. I'm making fun of your weather.
Yeah. Well, it depends. It's usually covered in clouds around here, but sometimes we get to see stars on the odd occasion.
Yeah.
Hat malevolence. I don't get a Sydney to Santiago straight shot flight takes roughly 13 hours. This is not possible on the absurd flat Earth model. This is a physical fact. Anyone with DOS can do it.
Yeah. So, yeah, let's talk about that. So, the first thing you have to believe is that airplanes since the 1950s or 60s have not gotten any faster. Okay. Then you have to believe that there's no such thing as a tailwind. All right. There is winds aloft at 40 and 45,000 feet that go, between 100 and 200 miles an hour. But I don't even think you need those. And the direct flight from Santiago to Auckland is only goes by Qantas. They only have a special airplane that does it. There's only a small handful of military pilots that can fly it. The plane itself has 7 layers of heat-resistant paint on it. When they first revealed it, they told us about the heat-resistant paint. Well, what does heat-resistant paint kind of suggest? Maybe it's going a little faster than they told you. The sound barrier, there's no barrier to sound. There is a thing called a sonic boom, because when you are going the same speed of sound, your sound bunches up until you go faster than the speed of sound. It's not a barrier. So to say that it's impossible is to say that planes can't fly faster than 550 miles an hour. If a plane going, let's say, just goes 750 miles an hour, get up into those trade winds, get 100 mile an hour tailwind, which is consistent. You usually get 150, sometimes 200, or even more. And those flights make perfect sense. Problem with those flights is they're often canceled because sometimes those winds don't, they realize they can't do it. And other times there's a 5-hour difference in their arrival time. 5 hours difference, right? They're supposed to make it in 12 or 13 hours, whatever it is, and it takes them 18 hours. Okay, right? They're flying greater distances. It's very simple. In my app, What About Southern Flights? There's a whole bunch of videos in there that'll show you how it's no big deal. So the fact that those flights get canceled, the fact that they have huge variances in their arrival times, and we actually, early on, we wondered if those flights even existed. And so what we did is we, how do you prove it? Because a lot of times you can't get a seat on these flights. They're very expensive. And then the flight is canceled and they reroute you with, 4 stops. So Max Eigen, who's not a flat earther, he said he was taking the flight and we could track him. So what we did is we did a live Google Hangout. Max hopped on the Google Hangout from the airport, showed that he was at the airport, boarded the plane, on the plane, took off on the plane. So we know he's on the plane. There's no doubt. Then we kept the live Hangout going for 14 hours. And we had a professional flight tracking program. And that's where they're telling us the plane is going, right? This little loop over the southern hemisphere. And then Max landed and he, showed us that he landed and deboarded and showed us where he was. So there's no question that the flight exists. But Max also took compass readings along the way. And I forget, the route that he should have been going should have been just east or west mostly. But in the middle of his flight, something weird happened where he was going, he's going west, right? And then all of a sudden he was going like southwest, and then all of a sudden he was going south. And if this was the North Pole on a flat Earth, it made perfect sense. We lined it up, his flight on a flat Earth map, and as he passed the pole, the compass changed, right? He changed from heading, north to south, right? And that lines up with the flat Earth perfectly. So to say that these southern flights are impossible on flat Earth, I'd say wrong. I say the southern flights on the ball are impossible.
We had Max on not long after that. Actually, that incident that you're talking about showed us some video, and it was looking up at the screen that tells you where it has a little plane on, tells you where you're going, and it
didn't line up. It didn't line up. What he was showing didn't line up. Now, the ballers will say, the compass doesn't work on an airplane, the engines, you're having all sorts of problems. No, you can get a compass to work. But the thing is, there's a lot of controversy with Max Eigen. A lot of people say he's a shill, because he fought flat Earth for a long time. He really did. And I know why he did, because Max was one of the early truth guys out there. I followed him from when he started. And flat earthers sometimes get very passionate and aggressive. And Max wouldn't address flat Earth. And people just started attacking him. And what happens when you attack somebody? They push back even harder, right? If you want somebody to come, you don't pull them because they're going to pull back. So Max got a really bad taste for flat Earth and he refused to look at it. But after a few years, he mellowed. We talked a whole bunch of times and he started to see it. And so Max's official position now is he doesn't know what the heck the world is, but he knows there's a problem with the ball. And that's all you need to know, that there's a problem with the ball. So I leave Max to do what he does. Max does great, weekly videos a couple times a week on what's going on in the world right now. And I love his work. So anybody that doesn't know, the Crow House, he's on BitChute. You can find him there. The Crow House, watch his videos. They're very informative on what's going on. So there's my Max spiel.
Okay. Well, Max has been on this show a number of times over the years, so he's no stranger to us. Everybody knows the Crow House as well. So I don't know with Max. I mean, I interviewed him not long after when the people said that he had some sort of meltdown or something, and he'd said the Earth is flat and stuff like that. And in the
he said it's flat and round. I get it. You know what? He's got a point, but the Earth is observably flat, observably stationary. the truth is we don't know what it is, but we all know it's not a spinning ball flying through an infinite vacuum, period.
No. And what would you say the primary reason for us still, being fed this small image? Because it's everywhere, isn't it? I mean, BBC used to do it, have the ball going round, and it's on a number of different logos. I mean, what do you think what's in it for them that they're keeping it from us?
Yeah, everything's in it for them. It's they want a controllable slave class. They want to control our minds. And when you're lost in space, spinning out of control, you're a random accident, of evolution and just nonsense, where you're spinning on a speck with trillions of other specks in an expanding, pitch black, godless or distant god universe, where an asteroid could take you out at any time, where we're running out of resources. You give up your power, when the truth is we're at the center of creation. This place was created for us. We all have God within us, and we are powerful spiritual beings that nobody has dominion over. Nobody can take our free will unless we willingly give it. And they don't want us to know that we have the power of our minds that is super powerful. We can create everything in our lives, whether you're having a good life or a bad life. You created it with your mind, right? Your beliefs and your thoughts created the world that you live in. So the problem is they don't want us knowing that, because if everyone woke up to the flat earth tomorrow, they would all take their power back. And the analogy I use is the movie The Matrix with Keanu Reeves, right? In the first movie, he's depressed. Neo, he's sleeping a lot. He's on his computer. Something's wrong with the world. He's trying to figure it out. And that's because his conscious being, his, Neo, is disconnected from his soul, his journey on this earth. Like, his soul knows the truth because it's part of God, and he's separated from it. But by the end of the movie, Neo figures out who he is, where he is, what he is, and the power of his own mind, and that nobody has control over him. And then look at the Neo at the end of the movie. He's taken back his power. And that's what Flat Earth does. If everyone woke up, we'd all be the guy at the end of the movie, where nobody, the elite, they're little gnats, go away, right? We wouldn't even need to get rid of them because they'd be gone, because nobody would pay attention to them.
Yeah, I also think it's some part of it is what they do is they get us to ignore our instincts, because our instincts say if you got nothing, if you've not been into school through education, you would think that it were flat, because for everything you see and everything you experience it's flat. So do you think there's a part of that, whereas because they try to get us to go against our instincts all the time, our instincts telling us there's no wrong, there's nothing, there's no virus, nobody's dying. I can't see anybody dying on street like I was told. Oh, but I've been told by the news that I've got to wear a mask and stay in and everything.
Right, they've infected our minds with cartoons. So it's where's the question he asked was I got distracted. What was the question he asked? Sorry.
Sorry, I was just talking about is it a way for them to get us to ignore our instincts?
Oh yeah. So imagine this, they're getting us to ignore everything and give up our common sense for nonsense. They're getting us to give up our free will for slavery, and we're doing it willingly. I mean, people are wearing these muzzles out there. Now they're telling us to wear 2 or 3 muzzles. We were joking around early on and go, next thing they're going to tell you got to stick a popsicle stick up your butt. Oh, guess what? They're doing that now. Okay. It's insane what's going on. So they don't want us. They don't want us thinking for ourselves. Imagine this. There was no school or anything. You just grew up and everyone thought the earth was flat and stationary. And then I come along and try to convince you that we're spinning at 1,000 miles an hour. We're orbiting at 66,000 miles an hour. We're chasing the sun at 500,000 miles an hour, right? all of these, and then we're going sideways at 1.2 million miles an hour. But all of a sudden, we have lakes that do this, that are perfectly glass, right? You would think I'm crazy. There's no way I could convince you of this. But they did it. They did it, you know, in the early 1900s when the takeover happened.
Yeah, it is a big part of it, because we're always having, you know, what you think is, you know, the latest, how you feel about things, how you see and perceive things, you're told is wrong. No, you're wrong about that. I perceive, you know, if I, and we do it as to ourselves as well. So if I've got a nurse, I lost my leg in 2018. I had some operations on my other one last year. So I see a nurse quite often, and I'm always saying it to them. You know, what you're trying to do is you're trying to get my perspective, and for me to disagree with myself. I have an argument with myself about what is really going on and what is really happening. And I think they do it a lot. I think they do it. It's obviously a crime against humanity, obviously. But like you say, the flat lake behind you. If we were spinning around, it'd surely be flying off at Earth, or it'd be doing so. I mean, again, physics tells us that. Physics tells us that centrifugal force was spinning, so everything should be flying off.
Right. Well, the actually science tells us that the water bulges at the equator 14 miles high, right? Because of the spin of the Earth. That kind of makes sense. Water should, you know, expand outwards there. It should fly off the whole world, and none of it's real. But they tell us that it's bulging 14 miles high. So the first question is, why isn't this lake tilted then? Why isn't this lake bulging to one side? And the other thing is, 14 miles high, an airplane flies at about 5 miles high, right? So if I'm flying from the north to the south, at what point do I have to climb 3 times my altitude just to skim over the water? Okay? That if I go 3 times my altitude, I would just miss that bulge on the equator. All right? It's nonsense. It's complete and total nonsense.
And there's a lot of that. There's a lot of that about the ball Earth that's complete and utter nonsense. Run through some of the other things that are provably, you know, nonsense about this ball Earth.
Well, you know, one way to prove it would be for someone to sail around Antarctica. Now, 2 boats sail around Antarctica in opposite directions, keeping Antarctica in view the whole time. And they should meet 7,000 miles later, but no one's ever going to do it because, one, they won't let us, but you can't. The last person to do it was Captain Cook. It took him 3.5 years, and I don't even think he completed it. He went something like 60 or 80,000 miles, right? The equator is only 24,000, 25,000 miles around. How could he have gone that far and not circumnavigated Antarctica? And it's because Antarctica is not a 13,000 mile circumference ball at the bottom of the continent at the bottom of a ball. It's more like a lake, way bigger than that.
Yeah, so it's like, you know, how long would it take, do you think, if you went, if you got someone to do it?
Yeah, well, it depends on how fast you can go. I mean, there's no cruises from Santiago to Australia because they can't do it. You can fake an airplane because an airplane can go twice the speed and no one on it would even know it. Maybe not even the pilot. And a cruise ship, you really can't fake it. A cruise ship goes a certain speed, and you really can't fake it. So there are no cruises between deep southern locations.
But they'd probably say it's for the same reasons as there's no flights, because there's nowhere to land. There's nowhere, you know, anywhere near rescue. Sorry. Just somebody asked earlier on about satellites. I mean, we talked about NASA and earlier on, and space and the moon and all that sort of stuff. But what about satellites? Where do they fit in this?
Yeah, so satellites and GPS, that's always a big one. The first thing you got to know about GPS is it only works when there's land nearby. When you're flying, like out in the middle of the ocean, like from California to Hawaii or in the southern oceans, you're going to go into approximated mode. You're not shown on GPS. They just estimate what time you'll reappear. Like when you leave the California coast 100 or 200 miles offshore, you disappear. They have just like, oh, they're about here, and then when you're 100 or 200 miles from Hawaii, you re-show up again. And that's because it's a ground-based system. It used to be called the Loran system. Then they put a graphic overlay over it and said it's from satellites, right? Satellites are made up, okay? We've been pre-programmed with Arthur C. Clarke, pre-programmed us for the idea of satellites, and they're not true. There's no GPS over the deep Amazon because there's no place to put a tower there. There's nothing going on there. So that's the first thing. The other thing is, did you know that most of the helium companies in the world are owned by NASA, and NASA is the largest consumer of helium, right? So they're using the heliums for their rockets. They're using heliums for their satelloons, right? Just go on Google, go look up, NASA satellite balloon program. There's a whole bunch of them. And they're launching these satellites up to 8,000 pounds on these giant balloons, and they can control them by bringing them into different wind currents by remotely controlling their height, and they can keep them hovering wherever they want, anywhere on Earth. So there's tens of thousands of those things up there. But the thing is, when we look up in the sky and we think we see satellites, that's a physical impossibility. You cannot see a satellite with your eyes if there was one up there because it's too small.
Yeah. I suppose it'd be like a small car going past, wouldn't it?
Well, think about this. A 747 is about the size of a football field. It's about the size of the International Space Station, or what I call the International Fake Station. So think of a 747 at cruising altitude. It's a tiny little dot, right? It went from a football field to a tiny little dot in the sky. If you doubled that height, its angular size would be so small you could not see it. But the ISS is 50 times higher, and we think that we can see it. Now, we do see a light go by, but it isn't a space station 50 times higher than a 747. And satellites are the size of a small car, if that. And they're even farther away. And you think we can see that with our naked eye? You're not thinking. You're being sold a story, and you love it because it fits with your fantasies of your entire life.
Yeah, a lot of comments in the chat room. Fake station.
Read the comments. Love
I
it.
remember.
Good.
Yeah, we got some good people in tonight. You can see London from York, so says it all. Says Spanish chicken. If you from London to York to London, that's about probably about 220 miles, something like that. But going back to the GPS,
go ahead.
I thought to myself, I was watching one of them. I don't know if you're watching, but there was these gold mining TV shows, and they're up in the Yukon, and somebody's coming up to see them, and when they get to see him, they're in the Yukon. When they get there, he says, "I lost GPS about 6 hours ago." And I'm thinking to myself, "Well, hang on a minute. If these are above us, surely."
Yeah. So here's the thing. It is tower based. Now they do have AWACS planes up there, drone planes up there that some signals are being transmitted from, and the balloons, but generally it doesn't work. Somebody in chat said somebody they know works in the Amazon, and they regularly Skype and FaceTime. There are towers. You're not communicating with a satellite. There is connection, but in the deep Amazon where there's no civilization for hundreds of miles, there is no GPS there. So, hey, let me share my app so we can talk about some seasons, and I could show people that are not on, that don't understand or don't think this is real, where they can find the information. Because if you Google flat Earth, you're going to end up at the Flat Earth Society. You're going to get nonsense. There's hundreds of videos going up every week of garbage that have polluted the punch bowl. You can't find the fruit anymore. And Google will not serve it to you. Google, if you search Flat Earth, up comes an old, not Professor Dave video, who is just a paid shill with ridiculous straw man and gaslighting arguments. So is that cool?
Okay. Well, we're an hour in, so I just wanted to say to anybody who's listening who's just stumbled upon us, it's Raconteurs News on this Tuesday night. We've got David Weiss with us. We've been keen, and we are going to be. We've got another hour. We've got another hour of this. If there's any questions you've got in the chat room, just pop them in the chat room in capitals, and I might be able to see them then. I'm not going to be. I'm not going to promise that I'll see them, but I'm hoping I will see them. Right. So we've got.
Let me show the app and what it does and how it works. So a lot of you already know this, but for the new people out here, it really helps. And you can keep us on the screen on the side if you want. I don't know. It might be more interesting. So we're looking down at the flat Earth pond. It basically, you got to look at it like a clock, and the sun goes around once every 24 hours. So the sun keeps track of the hours and the days, and then it laps the moon once every 28 days. You can see it's getting closer to the moon every time it goes around, and the moon, it laps it every 28 days. So the moon keeps, and its phases, the moon and its phases and its position keep track of the weeks and the months, right? They used to be called moons. So
right,
if you watch it, we want to wait. So there's a new moon for about 2 times around, and there it is, the waxing crescent, and as the sun gains on it. And that's how that part of the sky clock works. If I slow it down, I turn on the stars spin around once every they go around once a day, but they're going slightly faster than the sun. So right now the sun is in one constellation, and next month the constellation behind it, which is what is that, Pisces, will catch up to the sun, and the sun will be in there for a month. And then after a year, the stars will have lapped the sun. So the stars keep track of the seasons and the years. Sky's a perfect clock. It's very easy to navigate by it. It's very easy to know what time of year it is. And if you understand it fully, you'll know when to plant seeds, all sorts of stuff. Oh, that was it. Somebody in the chat said that we'd still be in caves. Well, guess what? Our entire world is a lie. Oh, in the 1800s, there was a worldwide civilization here called Tartaria, and it was a peaceful, advanced civilization that built stuff that we can't build now. And that whole thing, there was some sort of reset that happened in the early 1900s, maybe late 1800s, and the world was taken over and hijacked from us, and we were all enslaved into this ridiculous system. So we're at the dawning of a new age right now, and it's up to us whether we want to wake up or not, which is the reason why I left everything to do this. So I'll turn off the stars. Okay.
Can people get this app? Sorry, can people get this app? Because there's a lot of people in the chat room saying that they'd like to have this app.
Yeah, I'll tell you. It's called the Flat Earth, Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app. And there on Android, there's a knockoff one by some Globe Trolls that's free. But if you get that one, feel free. But don't send me an email telling me my app sucks, because it's not my app. So this one, let me show you. And then you can find it. It's $2.99. So you're buying me a half of a warm beer. And that's it. And I'm not in this for the money. I walked away from the money to do this. Right. This app costs a lot of money, time, and tens of thousands of dollars to make. So I turned on the world time. So right now it's 7 a.m. in Eastern Australia, and it's 11 p.m. in Central Africa. So you can see where the world time is. Wherever the sun is, that's where it's noon. So right now, the sun's approaching Australia. It's rising higher in the sky because it's getting closer. And now it's noon in Eastern Australia. And that's how that works. So turn off the world time, and I'll turn on the compass. Check this out. The center of the flat Earth is the north. East and west, as discussed, are circles around the north. Imagine, and you can do this yourself. Get a table and, get a big piece of paper, draw a big circle on it, draw the flat earth map on it, whatever. Put a big, powerful magnet in the center, and then get a compass and put it on the table and try to push that compass east or west, and you will circumnavigate that piece of paper. Okay. And because east and west are circles, every direction away from the center is south. So every direction, south is outwards. South is outwards. Every straight line is south. So that's it. And when you go south, you end up hitting Antarctica. And if you keep going, you'll keep going. You won't pop up on the other side of the ball. If I left South America and I went south on a ball, I should end up over here and end up on Australia. But I don't, because you can't do it, because nobody's ever done it. So I have a challenge for everybody. First, I can hit the little jumping guy button and the sun will move a month at a time. And if I move it into June, there's the summer solstice. The sun is over this inner yellow line, which is the Tropic of Cancer. And so that's our summer. The sun is higher in the sky and it's closer to us. Therefore, we're getting more sun and it's hotter. It's just like a heat lamp. You bring it closer, it's more powerful. So I bring the sun back in, and as it goes around, it's higher in the sky. Imagine an airplane flying directly over your head at 10,000 feet, whatever height, doesn't matter. And paralleling that airplane at the same altitude, just 50 miles south of you, 30 miles south, whatever, is another airplane. Well, that airplane is going to be lower in the sky, right? It's going to be lower in the sky. Therefore, that's your winter sun, farther away and lower in the sky. Your summer sun goes over you. So while we're having our summer sun in the north here, the south is having its winter sun. Now, on December 21st, the sun was out here. It's already moving back in. So, Australia had their summer, that why we had our Christmas, and it's now moving in. When it's halfway, it'll be over the equator, the red line. And then when it gets all the way in here, the outer southern lands will have their winter and we'll have our summer. It's that simple. The ball model is insane. So what I say is every day there's a new video here, the featured video of the day. Short ones during the week, longer ones on the weekend. And what I say is, if you think Flat Earth is stupid, I got a deal for you. Get the app, watch the video every day for 2 weeks. After that 2 weeks, if you still think that the Earth is a spinning ball and you can supply me with one proof, I will refund your $2.99 and give you either 100 ounces of silver or a full Bitcoin. Okay? And that's my guarantee. Just one proof of the globe. But before you send it to me, you have to hit that little question mark. When you hit that, up come all the questions you're going to ask. Are all the space agencies in on it? What about Southern flights? What about ships over the horizon? Or why the lie? If I hit ships over the horizon, up comes a playlist of videos that YouTube will not serve you, right? These videos will show you how ships do not go over a physical ball horizon. And it shows you how to do these experiments yourself. You don't have to just say, well, I saw it on the internet. It shows you can verify all this stuff yourself. In here, for the person that said, we'd still be living in caves, we didn't live in caves. Go look down on the bottom right, hit this Mud Floods Tataria button, and you'll learn about what was here before this round of civilization. And for those of you that think, don't realize that, the Bible and the Quran are flat Earth, centric. Check out the Biblical Flat Earth. Those of you that Google, hey, what are the top 10 proofs the Earth is a ball? What are the top 10 proofs the Earth is a ball? You're going to get videos, with just nonsense, but we've taken them all apart in the debunking the debunkers button right there. And then to the left of that, the globe Earth curve calculator. You're sitting at the beach and you're like, hey, wait a minute. I see that buoy or that land. I know that's 60 miles away. You can go into the curve calculator and up comes you put in your eye height and the target distance, and then hit calculate, and it'll show you, it'll tell you what the hidden horizon is. So does a lot of things, a lot of fun. Great way to show people about the flat earth, because if you're trying to explain flat earth to somebody, they'll be listening, and it's a lot, but you break this thing out, and all you do is you just put on this, tell them about the sun, the moon, and the stars, and they always do the same thing. They go, oh, that's how it works. One other button, the top button with that little radar map on it, brings you up the wind radar. I mean, it shows you the current winds of the earth. So if I go up the 10 HPA, let me see. These are different altitudes, and you can see these wind patterns that circle the earth beautifully. They don't do the big sine wave that they showed us in school, you know, where the jet stream goes up and down. They make perfect circles on the flat earth. This is actually a little hectic. It's been a little hectic for the last month or so, but normally these are even more organized and there's higher winds. So it would be interesting to see. There you go. There's that. That's about 40,000 feet. And you can see those pink and, red areas. Those are going, 100, 200 miles an hour, maybe even more. So, that would affect these flights that have these, 5-hour time differences sometimes. So that's it. That's the Flat Earth, Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app.
We had a couple of questions during that time. One asking about stars, what you think stars are, and one here that has been asked quite a bit about the harvest moon.
All right, well, let's talk about stars.
I have no idea what they are. I've heard of it.
Yeah. So stars are so the only thing that we can say about anything in the sky other than airplanes and things that we know that are terrestrial based is that they're lights. We don't know how big they are. We don't know how far they are. We don't know what they're made out of. But our consumer zoom cameras now can zoom in on these things, and we see geometric, cymatic patterns and colors and all sorts of stuff. Nothing like what NASA tells us. When we look at planets, these are the wandering stars, and they are very interesting. Like, you look at Saturn, kind of looks like a ball to me. But again, I don't care what shape the lights on my ceiling are. I know my floor is flat. All right. So correlating what's in the sky to what's on the floor is a straw man argument. So I don't believe that at all. But the stars, if you watch the videos of stars that many people have taken, including myself, you wonder what they are. I think they're sentient in nature. They're all named after, weird. Well, all the wandering stars are named after gods, and who knows? What is the thing that we see that we call the ISS? I've tracked it, and I've watched the thing show up on the horizon, and it's like a little piece of the sun. It's that bright, and it goes from horizon to horizon in just a couple of minutes, right? What is that? Well, if you start really doing the science on it and looking at its height and its speed, none of it makes any sense. There's no way it could be reflecting that light for one, to where everybody sees that reflection. You reflect light, it only goes to one person. It doesn't go to everybody across the state. And the speed that it's going doesn't make any sense. The size doesn't make any sense. The brightness doesn't make any sense. None of it makes any sense. So what is it? I think it's a returning luminary that's here, that's going at a faster cycle than the other ones.
What about harvest moons? Do you know much about that? Have you got an answer to that one? So a lot of people
the harvest moon is just like when it's a big moon. Is that what
no idea.
I'm not 100% sure what a harvest moon is. I think it's when it's a big moon, and the moon and the sun. I can't. Well, I could show you here. I think that the moon and the sun are projected into our system, and sometimes they're projected bigger and smaller. There's all sorts of atmospheric conditions that make things look bigger. Here's something weird. When you watch the moon up here on a clear night on the horizon, it's gigantic, right? And then when it's higher up in the sky, it's much smaller, right? That's weird. But if you turn around and look through your legs, bend over and look through your legs at the moon on the horizon, it's no longer big.
Strange. I can't try
Super
that.
strange. It's all perception in your mind. It's the strangest thing ever. You know how like you see the moon and you take a picture of it and you look at the picture and go, huh, it's not so big in the picture. It doesn't look as impressive than when you're seeing it. The moon is some crazy thing. Here's my idea what the moon does, right? And this is me, David Weiss speaking. And there's a lot of people that think this. The moon has something to do with the reproductive cycle on this planet on this plane. Sorry for saying planet. And it might have something to do with the delivery and removal of souls. That's me. I don't know.
Right. The moon, you suggest.
Someone said, why do I claim there are 12 moons a year when there are 13? I never claimed there was 12.
There you go then. That's that answered. It's a sky clock. The ancients knew. The sky clock. Yeah, it's what is your? Let me just say, somebody, you're talking flat Earth, and somebody just calls you an idiot and says you're an idiot. You believe Earth's flat. What are you, like 100-year old or whatever, 200 years old? How did? What's your first thing to say to him apart from carry on?
What's the question? What's the question?
Well, what's your when people start ridiculing you or saying anything to you? Because I saw that you were it said on your bio that you were a master at when people were ridiculing you to be able to come back. So what's first of all? What's
I'll answer that.
One thing that people ask? Sorry, go on.
So you can always throw stuff at them, but everybody, when somebody asks a question and you destroy their answer, you answer it and destroy their question, they immediately go to another question. So because they're trying to defend their ball. So what I do is I say, all right, you're laughing at me. Give me one proof of the ball, and then they'll go, what about pictures? What about boats over the horizon? And then I'll just show them. I let them lead it. Tell me why you think you live on a ball. And a lot of people are like, well, I don't know why. And at the end of some of these interviews I've showed them everything. And they're like, well, I go, what? I said, do you have any reason that you still think the earth is a ball? They're like, well, no, I can't think of any, but I still do. That's childish. That's just being a child. Someone in the chat said the one about the 13 moons. It says my app says there's 13 moons. There's 12 moons, not 13. I ask you, how does the sun lap the moon every 28 days? And you say there's only 12 moons in my app. 28 days divided into 365. Tell me how many numbers you come up with. All right. I don't know if that's a troll or just somebody that's not so bright.
Well, I don't think it's either. I think it's just somebody that that perhaps looked at and misunderstood that your clock only had enough for 12 moons. So
it goes. The sun laps the moon every 28 days. So think about that. The sun's got to go around 365 times for a year. Divide 28 into 365. It's 13.
Right. So there are 13 moons on your clock.
100%.
On the app that you. Yep, there you go.
Yeah.
That's the answer to that.
I'm actually working on an API to get the actual moon the moon migrates in between the two tropics, just like the sun does, but it does it every month, let alone, the sun does it once a year. The moon does it every month. So that's going to be another upgrade coming up, hopefully, in the not too far future. So, but if you take your app out, when you're out during the day, look at the app and go, oh, wait, the moon's out. And then you'll look and you'll see it right where the app shows you that it is. There's so many times where people don't see the day moon. I think seeing the day moon is a really good thing to do. When you see it, I don't know, there's some sort of connection to it. and it's always fun to see the day moon.
I always wonder what's over Australia when the day moon's when I can see a moon in the daytime here. I always think to myself, well, what is in Australia? Can they see anything?
Well,
And I did see something. Where there were a guy in one place that was daytime, and he could see the moon, and someone in Australia who was could see the moon as well, but there was
in
no
the
way
nighttime,
that
right?
could.
Well, that's because the moon and the
But there was
sun
no way
don't act like physical objects. They're being projected. And as you're driving down the road, the moon's following you. Well, it really is following you because you're seeing it rendering in a position relative to your own, because it's more like a reflection. So, the question is, if we see the moon in the day sky, what's Australia seeing? Well, at nighttime, there's not always a moon in the sky at night. There's not. It goes around. Sometimes we have a moon in the day sky. On the heliocentric model, that works fine. It also works fine on a flat Earth model.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm sure I've seen a video once where there was a guy and he could see day moon, and they were doing it at the same time. And the Australian guy, I think he were in Eastern Australia, could see the night moon. So I mean, it's such a. Well, what about the claims? I think I've heard before that the light from the moon is colder. So if you're in shadow, it's and not in moonlight. In moonlight, it's colder than it is in shadow. Whereas in sunlight, obviously, if the moon's light comes from a reflection of the sun, then surely that reflection would be a slight increase in temperature and not a decrease in temperature in moonlight.
Yeah, a lot of people have issues with that. They can't understand how intensifying moonlight would get colder, and they just discount it without ever looking into it. I'm not a big fan of the moonlight thing, but I've done it myself, and it is true. But there's 99 ways out of 100 to get a false positive. People do it all the time, and they're insulating the land, which makes it warmer. So you really have to be careful how you do it. But it has been done many times. There's tons of videos on it, and it is strange. So moonlight is different.
Certainly different to sunlight. It's not a reflection of sunlight. Well, I mean that's what people I've had on the Martin, who came on before. He made quite a big point of that, but again, that was quite a few years ago. So I think it must have been about 3 years ago that we had him on. Do you know? I really love this. I love this subject, simply because it is so polarizing, and people. What I don't understand is the people that are just, instead of saying, "Oh, you're wrong, and this is the reason you're wrong, and this is the reason you're wrong," they'll just call you names. I mean, is that what we've been reduced to in this world?
So
you get that in.
Well, yeah, not so much anymore. I ignore all the nonsense. There's a lot of, people that just don't have they have too big of an ego to admit they've been wrong. The stuff they accuse us of, there's nothing that we can show you that will change your mind. You're just unwilling to change your mind. Well, no, I changed my mind from a lifelong indoctrination. I changed it. I used to think the earth was a ball, and I changed it to a very unpopular understanding, an unpopular knowing. So, again, then there's also the paid shills. There's an army of paid disinfo agents out there to hide this, because if everyone woke up to flat Earth tomorrow, the elite would be done. People don't realize what a big thing it is, because all flat earthers, the people that have understood what this world is, they've taken their power back like Neo did in the Matrix at the end. It's literally the same thing. Is once you understand the power of your mind, then you realize that nobody has control over you. None of this is true. There's a great awakening going on right now, for a whole bunch of reasons. I think that the energy of the earth maybe has shifted. People are waking up. The internet may have gotten away from them before all the restrictions came on. So, flat earth has always been around. You've seen my interview with Ruth, the 102-year-old woman, back in February of 2020.
No, I've not seen that. I've watched a couple of your interviews, but not that one, I'm afraid.
I was interviewing her about the World's Fairs because she was 102 and she had been to the New York World's Fair, and she was telling me how amazing the lights were because it was the first time the world was lit up at nighttime for her, and she had such a good memory of her childhood when she was 5. I asked her, I said, where did you go to school? In elementary school. And she told me school, teacher, the road it was on, kids in the class. And so then I asked her, what did they teach you in science class about the earth? And I never mentioned anything to her. And she looks at me and she goes, they taught me the earth was flat, but then they changed it some years later. Right. So that was in the 1920s here in Connecticut in the USA. We found another woman from Croatia who said in the 1930s, all of the schools were teaching flat earth. We found newspaper articles where teachers were being persecuted for introducing heliocentrism into the school system, right? So this entire idea that we've known for 200 years or 500 years or whatever, from Aristophanes, that's all nonsense. And this takeover happened less than 100 years ago. Okay. This entire world belief that everyone has, our history, that Wild West, it's all nonsense. There was an advanced civilization here. Everyone knew the earth was flat. There was giant airships in the 1800s cruising across the world, a whole different world.
Yeah, listen, I've been getting some earache about this question. So I'm going to ask it you. Most years have 12 full moons, one each month. However, our calendar is not perfectly synchronized with astronomical events. Therefore, every now and then, a year has 13 full moons. Now, I don't know whether that's just a glitch in your... I don't know about that. I don't know about astrology or... anything like that. I mean, is that something that you'd look into and see whether perhaps you could fix that if it needs fixing from your?
I don't know how they would even know there's 13 full moons in a year. Whether there's 12 or 13 on the app, but the moon phases are correct with the moons that we see. So whether there's 12 or 13 because they line up, or maybe you miss one by a day or two. It doesn't matter. I don't know what this person's talking about. So,
well, I think it's about the number of full moons in a year. And surely, I mean, if you've got it's synchronized, it would do that anyway. It would do the 13 full moons. Whenever it were, that was the how many we were having that year. Anyway, so can we put that to bed, everybody? Up?
Yeah. So you know what? It will be amazing. What you'll find out on this, in live chats and in the comments afterwards, you'll get people that are generally interested asking questions. That's always nice. Then you'll get other people that just have egos that'll make jokes, but they won't offer any proof. Then you'll have other people that'll comment on everyone's comment, saying flat earth is stupid, Dave Weiss is just in it for the money, just all nonsense. And when you go to their channels, they have zero content. They have no playlists. They have no videos. They have no subscriptions. They have nothing. So they're just bot accounts. It's amazing that there's so many. I'm wondering if they're pure bots or if there's actually, people that are behind these. But, it's the amount of, it's easy to discourage somebody from looking farther. One negative comment can stop somebody from researching farther. So again, you have to ask yourself, if I'm wrong, show me one proof of the ball, and I give you a full Bitcoin or 100 ounces of silver.
Awesome. Well, as long as it's not a one coin. I would imagine there are a lot of people that have those accounts. Just they do make those accounts up, and they are real people, but they use those accounts just to troll. I mean, there are a lot of people about.
Yeah,
You can see what happens. We're getting trolled.
If you're gonna troll accounts, at least upload a few globe positive videos, just a 5 or 10 videos that show the ball. But the reason they don't do that is because there are none. There's only ridiculous arguments. I mean, I can't think of one proof of the ball. If I could, I wouldn't be offering a friggin' Bitcoin or silver.
Well, what about that picture? That one that's not changed in 50 years. Even clouds are still the same.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm talking about the blue marble thing. It's for me, it is a complete joke. I don't like I say, I'm not sure. I'll keep my opinions to myself. But like I said to you before, I'm more leaning towards.
Someone's asking about my app. The app is unfortunately only available for Android and Apple. You have to have Android 8.0 or higher. And for Apple, I think the minimum you can have is an iPhone 6, right? So it's not available on Windows or anything else.
Awesome. Yeah. And it's $2.99. So that's about what?
$2.99. And on when you're it's by, if you want to make sure you have the right one, it's by Blue Water Bay, right? That's the company name, Blue Water Bay.
Yeah, so it's $2.99. It'd be about £2 in English, in real money, in proper right side of money. It'd be about £2. So it's £2. You'll spend more than that on this lockdown thing.
Oh yeah, please.
What do you think? This lockdown situation that we've got? Do you think that it's? Well, I mean, here's your ideas. Let's. What's your ideas on it? Why is it happening? Because it's definitely.
Wait, what was the end of your question there?
No, it was just me. I was just saying something, but obviously, no delay between Nixon and the moon, but a 5-second delay between me and you here from England to the United States. So
when Felix Baumgarten did the Red Bull jump,
what did I ask?
And that was straight up, right? So straight up. But when he was up over 100,000 feet, they had a hard time communicating with him because he was too far, right? They couldn't, in the 2010 or whatever it was, they could barely communicate with Felix at 100,000 feet, 120,000 feet, okay? But in the 1960s, we can talk to guys on the moon from the White House with no delay, right? You froze. You froze. Can you guys hear me in the chat? Jason is frozen. Until he unfreezes, if you guys can hear me, I'll read questions. Oh,
you're back. It's complete. It's you. Yeah.
You're breaking up a little bit. I just saw you now.
Frozen.
Am I frozen?
Am I back? Yeah.
Yeah, you're back. And they could hear me. You're the one that froze.
Go, you carry on. You do the questions.
I'd like to hear from the people that think we live on a ball in the chat. Ask a question.
Everyone can hear me. I'm hear you. Okay. That's what we're told to. Anyway, coronavirus.
You know what's getting sad is there's the number of ballers are diminishing rapidly, and I'm gonna be sad when there's nobody asking questions and I'm only preaching to the choir. And that's happening. I mean, when I go into these chats, there's more and more people are flat earthers, even on channels that are Glober channels. There's so many flat earthers in the chat, and by the end of the show, the Globers converted are flat earthers. It's gonna happen. It's happening. So wait, you were asking me. I think you're back. You were asking me about what I think about the lockdowns.
Yeah.
It's dance time.
Sorry. One of my listeners decides to phone me saying he's going to say you're frozen. We've sorted it now. Sorted it.
So
yeah, go on.
The question is, do you want the positive answer or the optimistic answer or what I really think?
Go on. Tell us what you really think.
I think that they're going for the Great Reset. We've heard that term out there. I believe there was a reset that happened in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and takeover happened around in the 1920s. In the 1920s, early 1918, 1920, somewhere in there, everybody was wearing masks and everybody was getting vaccinations, not to save the old people, right? Because if you don't get the vaccination now, you'll kill grandma. It was to save the soldiers coming back from World War I, right? So everyone got vaccinations, everyone was wearing masks, and then there was a massive die-off, right? That supposedly from the Spanish flu. So there's nothing new under the sun. The same thing is happening now. I also don't believe that the world population is 7 billion people. I think it's closer to 1 billion people, right? And there's lots of math and analysis that you can do that a lot of people agree with that. So if you look at the Deagle.com, DEAGEL or GLE, DAGLE.com, I think, they are predicting between now and 2025 that the U.S. population is going to drop from 327 down to 99 million, right? And the UK population is going to be even worse. It's like 65 million down to, I don't know, 18 million or something like that. But they're predicting a 500 million people drop in the world population. Well, if there's only 1 billion people and 500 million die, that number is the number that the Georgia Guidestones are talking about. Do you know about the Georgia Guidestones?
Yeah.
So are they're openly, in my opinion, clearly, in my opinion, are trying to get the world down to 500 million people by the year 2025.
As quick as that. I mean, we've heard Agenda 21 and Agenda 30, but you think the Georgia Guidestones prediction might be only 4 years away?
Well, that's what their plan is. When we discovered the Deagle report in 2017, we reached out to them to ask what the hell they're coming up with these numbers, these depopulation numbers, and we got a very unsatisfying answer. Some like an answer like NASA would give. And then they went quiet on us. The Deagle report's still up. It's still there. They actually changed it. The United States was set at 100 million, and recently they just lowered it to 99 million, right? So they're still updating this thing. So what the heck is going on? My idea is that they're literally wiping humanity. They're taking away our being human. What does it mean to be human? That we can go out, be free. We can go see people. We can hug people. We're electrical beings. We need to touch people. We need to have physical interactions. We need to see faces, right? What do you do when you see a baby? Do you say, "Hi, baby, how are you today?" Or do you make a face at the baby? It's all nonverbal communications. So when you're walking down a sea of people in a city, let's say there's hundreds of people walking by you every minute, your face is processing your eyes are processing all of those faces, right? And all of a sudden in the distance, you're like, "Hey, there's my friend Dave," right? And your brain will boom, it'll see Dave in a sea of faces, right? All of that processing is life. It's human, it's just being alive. I call it the Force, just like in Star Wars. They're taking all that away. They have us isolating, not touching, not breathing. Wear 2 masks, wear 3 masks, wear 4 masks, right? Let me stick this up your butt, right? They're literally taking away our humanity, and people are just allowing this to happen because they're spinning out of control, lost in space. It's insane.
Yeah. It is insane. I mean, like you say, the loss of that non-verbal communication, I think, is probably more important than the verbal communication that you use with somebody, because you cannot be actually communicating with that person, but you can look at that person, and if you see a smile, or you see like a twinkle in the eye, anything like that, after that's been taken away, you can't do it anymore. You can't smile at somebody, can you? I mean, if you've got a mask on,
right,
you can't do anything.
Yeah, all of that, and people are just complying. It's unreal. I never wear a mask. I go shopping without a mask, and I've been able to navigate. There's some places I won't go, but some stores will let me in. I've been thrown out of stores. I've had the police called on me. Never once did I get arrested or a fine or anything because they're in the wrong. But the fact that people are just allowing this to happen is really pathetic. And it is, the question is, will people wake up fast enough to stop this? Because it's not too late. And so that is one reason why I'm out here. I'm helping people wake up. So why, with all the crazy stuff going on in the world, why are you talking about flat Earth? Why aren't you talking about the masks and stuff? Because it doesn't matter if you think you have your freedom back. If you don't know where you are, who you are, what you are, that you are the center of creation, that you have God within you, then you still are powerless. You're still a slave, right? So we have these flat Earth conferences, and everyone there is awake. Everyone is mask free. Everyone is, everyone gets it and has taken their power back, like Neo did in the Matrix. So my goal out there is to wake up as many people as possible, and flat Earth, understanding where you are, who you are, what you are, is the key, in my opinion, to getting people to remove themselves from the Matrix and stop feeding the system.
Yeah, I think that's just something that everybody can agree with. We need to stop feeding the system. The problem is that we're pretty much reliant on the system at the moment. The system's put us in, dragged us all into a place where we need the system itself to be able to exist, and that we know that no accident. Someone's Nick's put conspiracy. Yeah, you're about right. Everything is a conspiracy. Everything, people are conspiring to do things against humanity. There's absolutely no way that there's any need for this. And we had this guy when this first came. You might have seen this guy, but when this first started last year in March. There was this old guy who was 100 years old, right? An old soldier, Captain Tom, they called him. And what he did is he wanted to walk round his garden in 100 times. Top noble thing to do. He wanted to raise £1,000 for the NHS. Okay. So when his story, going around and walking around his garden 100 times, when it hit the mainstream press, I think he ended up earning and making about £33 million for NHS. So it were quite a big story anyway, a whole war hero and everything, all the shit they love in propaganda in this country. Now he's died today, but what they're not telling you is that he's died with his family around him, which nobody else has been allowed to do that. If your family member is died in hospital, you can't go and visit, right?
My mother died alone.
There you go. And that's a disgrace. Well, this guy's died with his family around him. And also it's emerged, but nobody's reporting this, none of the mainstream media, but it is true. I mean, it was reported before. he went to Barbados for Christmas. That was his on his bucket list, and we're told that we've got to stop in, not do anything at Christmas because we don't want to get cause NHS any extra problems, and Christmas was basically cancelled. But he's gone to Barbados for it, come back, and he's died, as usual with COVID rather than of COVID. So
they're just moving everything from column to column. The same number of people die every year, but there's nobody having heart attacks anymore. Nobody dying of cancer anymore. Nobody dying in automobile accidents. They're moving everything into the COVID column. It's all just playing with numbers, and people believe it. They say hospitals are overrun with COVID patients. Well, what they do is a hospital has 1,000 beds or 800 beds, whatever it has. I don't know how big the hospital is. And they say, we've got 6 beds for COVID patients, and they have 7 COVID patients. They say they're overflowing. They're overflowing, right? Because they've over the allotted beds. The rest of the beds are empty. The hospitals are empty. Their nurses are doing TikTok dances. It's insane. And people still believe the nonsense.
Well, when I went for that blood test on Monday, I went into the waiting room, and they've got a TV, and on the TV they've got BBC News on. And they got a guy who said, yeah, I couldn't believe it, me. I laughed, and I looked around at the people who were sat in the thing, and they'd all got their masks on, but I physically laughed out loud. But he said, someone brought up, one of the presenters brought up to him and said, what about flu? Because it's flu season. And he said, yes. One of the good things about lockdown is that we've the flu. We've had 5% of what the amount of cases that
because of the lockdown. Yeah. It's ridiculous.
And then they're saying it's because of the masks and because of the people are locking down, but it's just a nonsense. It's just because they're adding the flu into the COVID figures.
It's insanity what's going on, and people are just buying it. When I was at the grocery store yesterday, I saw 2 things. There was this old man, very out of shape, coming around, holding onto his cart. He has his mask on, and he's gasping for air. It's like he can't breathe. He's literally about to die, and I'm staring at him. And finally I said, sir, I said, take off your mask and breathe, right? Take off your mask and breathe. You're going to die. And he pulled his mask down a little bit. They took a breath, and then he put it back up and walked away. He's like, they're gone. And then I saw this little kid, I don't know, 3 years old, who was having a meltdown with his mother. And, she wasn't behaving, whatever. And he's, you ever see a kid have a meltdown where snot's coming out of his nose? He's got his mask on. Snot is coming out of his nose. Spit is coming out of his face. He keeps pulling his mask off because he can't breathe because it's covered with massive amount of snot. And the mom kept pulling the mask back up, not even cleaning his fucking nose, right? Excuse my language, but I almost beat the shit out of her, to be honest. Okay. But that wouldn't have gone well. So I literally let a woman abuse her 3-year-old and walked away.
Bogan Al-Surd. Anyway, he said he's got to go, but thank you, David, for everything you do. You're making a huge difference. We've had a lot of people. We've had a lot of people that are very dismissive, but we've also had a lot of people who are very supportive of what you're saying. And I'm for me, it's been. I really enjoy talking about this.
Jason.
I want to get on to the firmament because we've only got a few minutes left. Sorry, go on.
Right. We'll talk about the firmament, but for those of you that are being dismissive, ask yourself, why can't you come up with one proof of the globe? Right. And if you think you have one, you don't. Right. Get the app, click the button, the question mark button, and it's answered in there. And then ask yourself, why are you refusing to look? Because these people think they have a proof of the globe. They will not look at any evidence, and then they're just living their lives. So those people, I'm like, go ahead, enjoy your ball. So the firmament, what do you want to know about it? I mean, all I know about it is I think it exists. There you go.
Okay. We don't know what it's made of, obviously, because we've never been up there.
Right. In the app, there's lots of videos under Antarctica about sky ice. Have you heard about sky ice?
Sky ice. No, I'm
In
not.
Antarctica, the real ice that they test down there comes from the outer lands. Maybe they're drilling it out of the dome. I don't know. But it's this ice that's blue, like the sky. And it's so cold, they can't transport it out of Antarctica because they can't keep it cold enough. And it doesn't melt, it shrinks and it doesn't leave a puddle until it's gone. So, what is it? Is it frozen gases? I don't know. But maybe that's what the firmament's made out of. Maybe it's made out of glass. Maybe it's made out of energy. I don't know.
Yeah, well, that's an honest answer. If you don't know, you don't know, do you? I mean, it's better than making something up and saying, it's made out of a glass-like substance or a memory polymer or something like that. So anyway, we've just about wrapped up these 2 hours that I do thank you for coming along. I thank you for also whoever it was that sent me the information and the invite to get you on.
Thanks.
It's been absolutely fantastic. Anything you want to get in there while we've got 4 minutes, whether there's anything regarding Flat Earth you want to get into or where people can find your work and stuff?
So listen, I'm just one guy. I do a lot of interviews, but everybody can help. If you're a flat earther, it's time to get out of the closet. All right. It's time to start showing people stuff, start questioning people, start, engage them, ask them questions, say, hey, I believe the earth is flat. And if they ask you why, you just flip it back at them and say, why do you think the earth is a globe? And they'll throw you a flat earth 101 question. They'll go, because of photos. You can break out whatever you want, show them on a computer, the app, whatever, show them how the photos are all fake. And then they'll say, well, what about ships over the horizon? Show them the ships over the horizon. They're only going to ask Flat Earth 101 questions. Anybody could do it. If you're not a flat earther, ask yourself, why are you refusing to look at the information? Okay. Because if everybody started waking everybody up, we'd be done this year. We'd hit critical mass, right? There is no more time to wait, right? The world is changing rapidly. By the end of this year, there's going to be insanity. And if they are able to implement all of their programs worldwide, there may be no turning back. So again, you got to figure out where you want to be in this. And, people need to wake up. So, share the app with people. Wake them up any way you want. My podcast is the Flat Earth Podcast, available on all podcast players. You can find the flatearthpodcast.com for more information or my app.
And follow your instincts as well, I think.
Yeah.
Your instincts are most likely right.
Absolutely. I'm losing my voice.
Well, anyway, we've come to the end of these 2 hours. A big thank you to you, David.
Thanks,
for
Jason.
and talking about Flat Earth. I really appreciate it. Like I say, I've had instances. I had Martin on before, but I have had instances where I've tried to get somebody on Flat Earth, and they suddenly they're very wary of what your what your motivation is for getting them on. Whether I suppose that some people would go on and say, perhaps just take piss. So I hope you've not had that experience here, and I hope you've.
No, you were presenting facts just like I was. You get it. I actually more prefer going on channels that think flat earth is dumb. I just did a show the other night with 4 guys from I think they're from Georgia or North Carolina, and they were all ballers. Like, we're ballers, but we're gonna ask you questions. By the end of the show, they were all holding their heads. They're like, whoa. And they saw it. They were bright. That I think that's coming out on Wednesday, tomorrow. So keep an eye on well, there in the app. I have a interviews button. Also, you can find most of them are posted on the Flat Earth Podcast Facebook page if you don't have the app.
So you can find out, have a look at that Flat Earth Podcast on Facebook. Flatearthpodcast.com.
And Twitter is what is Twitter? The FE Podcast. The FE Podcast. And then at the FE Flat Earth, the FE Podcast.
Awesome.
All right. Awesome. And then don't message me on Twitter because I don't really get my messages there.
Well, anyway, we've been great. It's been great tonight. So thank you to you, David. Thanks to everybody that's listened. I'll be back on Friday with an After Dark. And that's what we call it. We do a late show on a weekend, just before weekend, where we probably have a few too many to drink and talk nonsense. But that's going to be after dark on Fridays is After Dark, and Tuesdays is when I try to do the serious interviews like I've done now with you, David Weiss. All right, thanks everybody. It's been really it's been an interesting couple of hours, and it's flown past as well. I'll be back on Friday at 9:30. Again, thank you, David, and thank you for everyone listening. I'll see you soon. Take care. Ta-ra a bit. Bye.
All right, thanks.